Okay, I guess my live stream has begun. And welcome to me talking about whatever I want. Um, I forgot to do one important thing. Excuse me. Okay, I wear rubber bands on my teeth. I forgot to take them off. They're gone. So today I just want to talk about who are the Proud Boys and that stupid response um, when he was asked to tell these groups to stand down. He instead said, stand back and stand by. And they took that as basically a rallying cry or something. So the other thing is, late last night, the news came out that Trump tested positive for the Ronas. So all of this is just crazy. I'm sure everybody's wondering, is he actually sick? Does he have symptoms? What's going on? As far as I know right now, that has not been reported. He's not showing any symptoms, but he and his wife, Melania, both tested positive. That's concerning. I really hope their son doesn't catch it. He's just a kid. And I hope Melania gets better. And I want the best for our democracy. That's how I feel about that. So I printed out a few articles. One is from BBC News, headlined US Election 2020, Who Are the Proud Boys and Who Are Antifa? And they have an interesting story in here about violence by an Antifa member. So I'm going to probably do a whole separate thing on Antifa alone. On this one, I'm really going to focus on the Proud Boys, but eventually I will talk about Antifa as well. So I also printed out something from the Southern Poverty Law Center. They have a bunch of quotes from the founder of the group, the Proud Boys. And then USA Today had an article about them. So I'm not going to read these articles verbatim. I don't think I'm really allowed to do that anyway, copyright laws and all of that. But I am going to go through, and I want to read some of the quotes from this guy. But first, when I just did a general Google search on who are the Proud Boys, I got some general information about them. So they apparently have 4 stages to their initiation process. But basically, it says that they are a right-wing group of 15 to 30-year-old white males. And that is an overgeneralization. I think they do have other races, ethnicities, whatever in their group, but generally speaking, that's who they are. Now, here are the 4 stages of Proud Boys initiation. So they have a loyalty oath and, quote, I'm a proud Western chauvinist. I refuse to apologize for creating the modern world, end quote. 2, you have to get punched until you recite pop culture trivia. For example, names of 5 breakfast cereals. This is so annoying. I get scam calls. I need to silence my phone. That's really annoying. But here we are, we're live. Anyway, so you have to, the second stage of initiation is getting punched until you recite some kind of pop culture trivia, like reciting the names of 5 breakfast cereals or something stupid like that. And then the third stage would be getting a tattoo and agreeing not to masturbate. The 4th stage would be getting into a fight for the cause. So part of being a Proud Boy is initiating violence for the cause of being a Proud Boy. And the rules were amended in February 2018. So they've decided no cargo shorts, no opioids, no crystal meth. And they have a new quote, quote, no heterosexual brother of the fraternity shall masturbate more than one time in any calendar month, end quote. I have no idea why they put restrictions on that sort of behavior, but that's what I found as far as a general description of who the Proud Boys are and what they stand for. So they are proud of being Western chauvinists, as they say, and they are not going to apologize for creating the modern world. Okay. So according to the Southern Poverty Law Center, the Proud Boys were established in the midst of the 2016 presidential election. So here we are 4 years later with the 2020 presidential election, and they've come up again. So back then, I didn't pay much attention to who they were or anything like that, but they seem to have stand the test of time for at least 4 years, and here we go. So in the midst of the 2016 presidential election, there was a guy from Vice Media named Gavin McInnis, and he's the person who founded or co-founded the Proud Boys. And yes, they do describe themselves as Western chauvinists who adamantly deny any connection to the racist alt-right, insisting they are simply a fraternal group spreading an anti-political correctness and anti-white guilt agenda. So I don't care what they deny. I mean, they can deny that they're not connected to the racist alt-right. Maybe they just don't like the terminology. But once you hear some of the quotes from this group, I think you'll see that they probably do belong in the category of racist alt-right, but let's see. So they were founded in 2016 in New York, and their ideology is just general hate. Their disavowals of bigotry are belied by their actions. So they say that they're against bigotry, but then they do things that prove that they are exactly for that. So they regularly spout white nationalist memes and maintain affiliations with known extremists. They are known for anti-Muslim and misogynistic rhetoric. The Proud Boys have appeared alongside other hate groups at extremist gatherings like the Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville. And that rally in Charlottesville was actually organized by a former Proud Boys member named Jason Kessler. And that brought together Klansmen, anti-Semites, Southern racists, and militias. Kessler was only expelled from the group after the violence and near universal condemnation of the Charlottesville rallygoers. So they only kicked him out of the group after everybody realized that he was one of the people who organized the rally, and that he was also a member of that group. So the group kind of had to distance themselves from him, even though they seemed to have been perfectly fine with everything that he did. Other hardcore members of the so-called alt-right have argued that the, quote, Western chauvinist label is just a PRC term. I don't know what they mean by that. Maybe politically? No, I have no idea. McInnis crafted it. So he crafted the term to gain mainstream acceptance. I'm not going to read the swears that they're saying here. I'm trying to skip some of this stuff. Oh my gosh. So basically this person, Brian Bratovich, is saying that most of the people in the Proud Boys would probably have agreed with someone like Hitler. And that's me paraphrasing because I don't want to use the nasty words that he used. McInnis himself has tied, so if you want to read this article yourself, I will put a link to it. in the description box after I finish this live stream, but it's from the Southern Poverty Law Center's website, and it's under extremist files, hate groups, and it's the Proud Boys. I'm sure if you do a Google search, you'll find it just as easily as I did. Okay, I'm skipping. Now I'm going to go to some of the quotes that the founder, McInnis, has made. I actually haven't read through all of these beforehand, so I might stop myself if I feel like something is a little too extreme for my live stream. So again, his name is Gavin McInnis, and here are some of his own words. Quote, "It's such a rape culture with these immigrants. I don't even think these women see it as rape. They see it as just like having a teeth pulled. It's a Monday. I don't really enjoy it, but that's what you do. I wouldn't be surprised if it doesn't have the same trauma as it would for a middle-class white girl in the suburbs because it's so entrenched into their culture." Gavin McInnis, Get Off My Lawn, June 19th, 2018. Here's another quote. "Muslims have a problem with inbreeding. They tend to marry their first cousins, and that is a major problem here because when you have mentally damaged inbreds, which not all Muslims are, but a disproportionate number are, and you have a hate book called the Quran, you end up with a perfect recipe for mass murder," end quote. Gavin McInnis, Get Off My Lawn, April 24th, 2018. Here's another one. Quote, we brought roads and infrastructure to India, and they are still using them as toilets. Our criminals built nice roads in Australia, but Aboriginals keep using them as a bed. The next time someone blank about colonization, the correct response is, "You're welcome." I think he might have said bitches about colonization, but that word was taken out. It just was B dash dash dash. So that quote comes from 10 Things I Like About White Guys, Tacky's Magazine, March 2nd, 2017. Here's another one, quote, "Well, look at the canary in the coal mine called Britain. We see guys get away with raping children regularly, and they have excuses like, I didn't understand the word no," end quote. "We have a woman raped several times in one night. All these guys they don't all get away, but they seem to get away too often. And then you have people being jailed for rude tweets and comments when they're white. So people in America say Muslim are what? 1 or 2% of the population. There's never going to be Sharia law here." And I say, have a look at Britain. Have a look at Europe. That's where we're headed. Gavin McInnis, Get Off My Lawn. So he's trying to say that there's Sharia law in Europe, which is ridiculous. He's making a lot of ridiculous claims, but aside from them being ridiculous, they're very, very racist. Here's one that is just plain sexist, misogynistic. "Maybe the reason I'm sexist is because women are dumb. No, I'm just kidding, ladies, but you do not tend to thrive in certain areas like writing," end quote. That's Gavin McInnis, The Gavin McInnis Show, June 28th, 2017. Another quote, "I just realized something. Cory Booker is kind of like Sambo. He's kind of shucking and jiving for the white man. Cory Booker grew up rich in an all-white suburb. He's basically a white guy. His parents are very wealthy executives at IBM, but he wants to be a black dude, so he pretends that he's down with the brothers, and he acts outraged about racism all the time for white people. That gets him votes from whites." That was Gavin McInnis on his CRTV show, Get Off My Lawn, January 17th, 2018. I mean, this goes on and on with his comments. I don't even want to read any more of them, but I think if you've been listening, you might have a sense of why people say, despite the fact that they try to deny that they're part of the racist alt-right, I mean, everything they say and do proves otherwise. So, okay, so let's get back to this BBC News article where they're talking about who are the Proud Boys and who are Antifa. So President Trump mentioned a far-right group during the first presidential debate, kicking off online celebrations by his supporters. So that's what the article says. But in actuality, Trump is not the one who mentioned the Proud Boys. It was mentioned to him as a group that he should condemn. And instead of telling them to stand down, he told them to, he said, Proud Boys, stand back and stand by. And that didn't sound like a condemnation of white supremacy to anybody, really, and not even to the Proud Boys. They actually heard it as like a rallying cry or something. So, but then Trump went on to insist that the violence was actually coming from far left activists. Quote, somebody's got to do something about Antifa and the left because this is not a right-wing problem, end quote. And then Joe Biden, who he was, Joe Biden is the person that was debating Trump, responded with, quote, Antifa is an idea, not an organization. That is what President Trump's FBI director said, end quote. So who are these groups? I mean, we've talked a little bit about the Proud Boys, so we know where they stand, despite the fact that they say they are not a far-right racist group. Everything they preach and do proves otherwise. So, but to sum that up again, the Proud Boys were founded in 2016 by a Canadian-British right-wing activist named Gavin McInnis. So this is what the BBC is reporting. I did not know that he was Canadian-British. I thought Canadians were friendly people. So the Proud Boys is a far-right, anti-immigrant, all-male group with a history of street violence against its left-wing opponents. The group's name is a reference to a song from the musical version of the Disney film Aladdin. I have no idea of what this has to do with the movie Aladdin. So the members often wear, this is members of the Proud Boys, they often wear black and yellow Fred Perry polo shirts along with red MAGA hats, the Make America Great Again hats. And we've already talked about how they declare that they are Western chauvinists who refuse to apologize for the modern world. I'm going to read this from the article directly because they're using some strange language. Their platform, such as it is, includes Trumpian ideas, glorify the entrepreneur. Okay, I don't know what they mean by Trumpian ideas. Like, is that meant to be? I don't know what they mean by that. But I'll read that one more time. Their platform, such as it is, includes Trumpian ideas, glorify the entrepreneur, close the border, libertarianism, give everyone a gun, end welfare, and traditional gender roles, venerate the housewife. They're not exclusively white, but they've become notorious for violent political confrontations. The Proud Boys and affiliated groups have faced off with Antifa in a number of violent street rallies in the last 2 years, most notably in Oregon, Washington, and New York. 2 members were jailed last year for beating up Antifa activists in New York. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube have all banned the Proud Boys from their platforms, and members of the official chapters have been largely shunted towards less popular networks. So members of the Proud Boys have had to go to other networks because they've been banned from Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. So their current chairman is a person named Enrique Tarrio. And apparently the chairman of the Proud Boys, Enrique Tarrio, responded to Trump's statement and said, standing by, sir. I will stand down, sir. he's responding as though he's like a member of the military or something. McInnis, Gavin McInnis, publicly disassociated himself from the group in 2018, saying that he was taking the advice of his legal team. So I read that Gavin McInnis felt that his stepping down as founder was purely symbolic. Like he was doing it because his lawyers had suggested that he do it, but really he still believed in the cause and he still felt very much a member of the Proud Boys. So in a video reacting to Tuesday's debate, Gavin McInnis said, even though they say he didn't seem very serious, he said, quote, "I control the Proud Boys, Donald. Do not stand down. Do not stand back," end quote. So apparently they've incorporated the phrase "stand back, stand by" into their logo. So who is Antifa? I'm just going to go briefly over Antifa just because this article mentions that Antifa and the Proud Boys have issues. So Antifa is short for anti-fascist, and it's a loose affiliation of mostly far-left activists. They include anarchists, but also communists and a few social democrats. What sets Antifa apart is their willingness to use violence in self-defense, they say. So the movement at one point almost entirely disappeared in the US, but it saw a surge of interest after the election of Donald Trump. And Antifa routinely clashes with far-right groups. So Antifa has been prominent during Black Lives Matter protests in many major cities, and they've been associated in particular with the unrest in Portland, Oregon. So in late August, a self-described anti-fascist named Michael Reinhold, I believe, he was 48 years old. He shot and killed a supporter of Patriot Prayer. So Patriot Prayer is a Portland area group that often marches with the Proud Boys. So I'm guessing Patriot Prayer would be similar to the Proud Boys. I've never heard of Patriot Prayer. I will look them up. I'm gonna highlight that just so I remember to look them up. So apparently in August, 48-year-old Michael Reinhold, who described himself as an anti-fascist, shot and killed a supporter of Patriot Prayer. And this happened in Portland, Oregon. And like I said, Patriot Prayer, not player, Patriot Prayer is a group that often marches with Proud Boys. So later, Reinhold was shot dead by the police, like the following week. Both groups are relatively small. Both, I think when they say both groups, they mean both Antifa and Proud Boys, because that's what this article is mostly about. They're saying both groups are relatively small and can count on, at the most, a few thousand active supporters, but their propensity for violence, particularly when they confront each other on American streets, has made them a much bigger topic of conversation than those numbers suggest. So even though there are only probably, because nobody knows for sure, but probably a few members of Antifa, if you can call it an organized group, which you kind of can't, and only maybe a few thousand members of the Proud Boys, they seem much bigger because of the impact that they have, because of the violence that they perpetrate on the streets and the media attention that they get because of it. So that's kind of a little overview of Antifa. I guess the group or the idea of Antifa has been around for a really long time. Obviously, we fought wars over fascism and getting rid of it. So to be anti-fascist is not a new concept, but the willingness I guess the willingness to fight for it is not a new concept either, when you consider the fact that we've gone to war over it. But the fact that there are individuals who are willing to proclaim that as their cause seems to be kind of a new thing. So that's Antifa, and that's the Proud Boys. I get into these other articles. I'm probably going to do another episode on this because I feel like I need to do some deeper research into who these people are. And I mean, they're crazy ideas. Like, you got to get punched until you recite pop culture. You got to get a tattoo, and I mean, it's all this crazy stuff that you would read about in some like teenage boys novel or something like that, about some stupid club that boys decided to join, and then the end of the story would be how it's such a bad idea to go along with a group just because they decide to do some crazy stuff and it might seem exciting at the time. You see, that should be like the end of it. The moral of the story should be how this is really bad and people shouldn't do it. But when you look at the ages that they target, I mean, young guys want to feel part of a group, and a lot of people are excited by violence. And, that's kind of why like a lot of young guys join gangs. And this doesn't seem any different than a gang to me. I mean, with street gangs, you have to get jumped in. So the getting punched until you recite pop culture seems like the jumping in part of it. And then the getting into a major fight for the cause, like sometimes they make gang members like do some random act of violence in order to be like officially in the gang. I mean, this just seems like a gang to me. And there was something else I read about how the FBI had initially said that it was a hate group, and then they kind of backtracked on that. I'm going to definitely go a lot deeper into who they are and why they are being protected by the president, by the FBI. Like, what's going on here? They are very obviously a gang, and for whatever, and their whole MO is alt-right, racist, disgusting behavior for just the sole purpose of being anti anyone different. So it just seems crazy. I mean, why we allow this kind of thing in America is obvious. I'll get into that even more too, because whatever. Welcome to me talking about whatever I want. And that is that. I hope everyone is having a good day, despite the craziness. And I do wish everyone well. Thank you for watching.